in here with
or
a knife.
GXP or whatever it was.
No, just an 06.
What was the hard top?
Before they had
The hard top was awesome.
GXP.
The GX, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That car was cool.
Okay, the audio recorders are going on this end.
Well, that's a
Yay.
shame.
Are you liking one of your simulators, Sean?
I am in my old simulator. I'm in the first simulator.
Why?
Because it's really comfortable.
Oh.
And it's right in front of my monitor. And
yeah, I had to give up my comfortable desk chair to the person who's working from home.
Now ask me what kind of seat it is. And then you won't believe that it's actually really comfortable, but it actually really is.
What kind of seat?
What kind of seat is it?
I built this in 1991, and the seat came out of a 1988 Hyundai Excel that we were taking to the scrapyard from the car lot that I was working on at the time. And this seat has been in this chassis since 1991. I'm pretty sure you've seen it, John.
No.
And it's actually...
He's probably smelled it.
It probably has 1.5 million simulator miles on it. And it's million. And it's as comfortable today as it was the day I put it in here. Like, it won't degrade. It won't. Twinkies and Hyundai seats are the only, well, maybe cockroaches. Those are the three things left after the apocalypse.
After the coronavirus?
After whatever's happening right now.
And then we'll go ahead and roll into the topic. I'm not sure if our listeners enjoyed all that little pre-show conversation.
Oh, crap, we're recording?
Yeah, we've been recording. I said we've been
why not?
recording.
Why not?
So it's no driving gloves, and you've got Sean, Derek, and John tonight. Now, Sean seems to be becoming a regular, and Will and Derek keep flip-flopping weeks. Kind of works. Kind of fun.
Hey. Some of us are busy.
You flip-flopper.
I prefer to flop-flip.
I like flip-flops.
Well, Birmingham does not classify, or Jefferson County does not classify museums as, what do they call them? Vital
essential?
businesses?
They're not essential?
Essential businesses. So does Bowling Green feel differently on that? Or are you guys still giving tours at the...
Sorry, I stopped listening. What?
Oh, my God.
No, the Corvette Museum is closed to the public.
Are you still, because we can have car dealers open down here, are you still able to deliver the people that bought factory or museum delivery into the building to pick up their cars, or and everybody stay 12 feet apart or whatever?
Yeah, under the current, Kentucky, whatever you want to call it, orders that have been placed down or whatever, yes, car deliveries can still occur. So we are still delivering brand new 2020 Corvettes. But that is the only thing we're doing.
Open the door, get your car, get out. Hey, you sucker. You don't get to see the rest of the place, right?
Well, we're allowing people to come back in the future to see the museum and do some of the other things that they're supposed to be able to do when they get their new car.
Free of charge? Well, actually not free of charge. For the low price of whatever they paid for their 2020 Corvette.
We're still going to give them all the experience they deserve. They can come back when this is all over in a year or 2, 3, 4, however long this zombie apocalypse takes.
That's comforting.
Mm-hmm.
It's so comforting.
That's kind of where we're going to go tonight. We tried to do a lighthearted show last week and just rambled on about various stories.
It was fun.
But now...
Yeah, I didn't listen to that one either.
We're going to step out, and I'm going to put a disclaimer at the beginning of the show, and if I remember, I'm going to put it at the end of the show, but this is also a disclaimer at the end of the show. We are theorizing here. Do not buy a car, sell a car, do whatever with a car on any of the advice that we give here. We're just kind of making predictions. You can take them as you wish.
I'm not going to give any advice at all. It's all the advice is on your shoulders, John.
I've been watching various markets and kind of been amazed at what's happening. I think Derek in the 2 minutes of pre-show we had, I had a lot of technical difficulties on my end for a change. That Derek's been saying the exact opposite. So,
and now Derek is Max Headroom.
Everybody's playing with green screens tonight.
Oh, it's awesome.
We're playing with the video feeds again.
I'm literally sitting here beside myself.
If you would go check out our Patreon page, as soon as we hit that level, we will start putting these videos up on Patreon, and our patrons can hear them. We might throw some random ones up on YouTube or bits just to tease you so you can go over. But we're really close to the number we want to be at. Somewhere between 0 and 100.
3.
Sweet.
3. It's
but
the exact amount of licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Roll center of the Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop. We want 3.
And you might see some live chats. Sean and I were going to try to do one live, but it's crazy. I think his simulator business has been busy, or the ability to sell has been causing problems.
The setting up the simulator business is busy. Just trying to get the website turned on, man. It's an undertaking. I'm learning new languages, and Derek is basically taking an LSD trip right now. I'm not really sure what's going on with Derek and the backgrounds, but he is
Derek.
He's bringing the psilocybin tonight. It's awesome.
Derek, I think I spent $14, $10 or something on Amazon, got my green screen, and you can see I've kind of got a green car behind me. And I think if I move, you'll see there's a little wavy section behind me. But
that's all right. I'll get a white sheet or something. We'll see what happens.
Green sheet.
Definitely get a green sheet. Don't get a white sheet.
I can color it green.
Actually,
paint.
Just video that. Get a white sheet and Krylon it.
Yes, excellent. So we're going to talk about cars.
Yeah, I was going to say. So I'm sorry, listeners, you're not going to get those 7 minutes and 20 seconds back. But as I'm going to say, as I've been watching, and part of my day job and my business is trying to figure out what's going to come of this. And again, I have no great conclusions. I don't know what to tell some of my clients. I talked to somebody yesterday who we were going to evaluate his collection, and we were going to look at ways to market it. We started talking a couple of weeks ago before all of this set in, and he made a panic move, in my opinion, and it was a jointly owned collection. His wife and her brother owned the collection, and the brother made an offer on the collection, and they sold it to him. Now, the amount of money didn't matter to him. He's got plenty, so it's not he didn't care if he lost $50,000 or $100,000 on the deal. It was just more the stress of not having the cars. But he, in my opinion, panicked. I think we could have done a lot better and got him a lot more money. Then, who knows, in 10 years, a year, and toilet papers, $40, $50 a roll, he might wish he had that extra 100,000. But there I saw somebody panic. But I've been watching, Bring a Trailer is kind of the best real world gauge. Now, why they haven't had any really record breaking sales. There's been some pretty serious numbers laid down in even the last 2 or 3 days on some cars. So, is it a buy? Is it a sell? Is it a hold? I don't know.
I don't think anybody knows. No one knows how long this is going to last. And I mean, if you look at China, it's a 4 to 5 month thing. If you look at what our president wants to do, everything's back to normal by Easter, which I think is definitely not possible. But I mean, it's like you said, John, it's all speculation at this point. There's literally, the only people that really know are the scientists that are sitting in the CDC and the WHO, and it appears that no one's really listening to them. Huh?
The little Corona guys.
Yeah, they're all walking around with limes and Mexican beer. Actually, no one's walking around with Mexican beer because the general public won't buy Corona anymore because That makes a lot of sense.
The illustrious leader of a local car club had plenty of Facebook pictures of him experiencing the pleasures of the Corona in the last couple days.
Oh my God. You and I, John, we actually just had a conversation about this very thing. The one car that I have right now that I may be able to actually liquidate, other versions of that car are selling for obscene amounts of money right now. And somehow mine is not worth that much money because it's not an AMG. But I don't know, man. I really want to sit there and take a look at the Mercedes market, and because of Radwood and because of there's Radwood, there's a couple other events popping up like Radwood out there right now that are 80s and 90s car oriented, and that seems to be bringing a lot of attention to the 84 Mercedes and the like that I have right now. I don't know, man. You are much more equipped to make those predictions than I am. I'm driver monkey. I'm not seller guy.
What have you noticed on your end of the spectrum, Derek? I see you moving around, so I think you've rejoined us. I saw your text about some internet issues, but...
Wait, you just got the internet issues text?
Yes.
That was like a half hour ago. That was before we started recording.
Hey. State of the art. But I thought you were there and you were moving and you were blinking, but hey. What have you noticed? What have you noticed on the say the pre-war car market? Have you I can sit here and cite Porsches and Mercedes and like Sean said, some of the Radwood stuff, and yeah, there it is telling me you had internet issues again. That's the second beep that comes 2 minutes after.
Yeah, I just got the text too.
Oh, then it's Derek. But
of course it's me.
But what have you seen on that end of the spectrum? I know you were really excited about something. Don't tell us what it is. Just hint in case you do decide to rush out and see if it's a legit offer.
Well, I mean, yeah. So I keep my eye on obviously a lot of early cars, and I'm just pulling up some other sites right now to see what's going on. But and maybe it's just the people that use some of the online sites like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. But I've noticed within the last, let's say, week to week and a half, so really the heavy hit time of all of the worries and everything that's going on, especially the stock market having gone so far down. I've noticed on a couple of the sites that people seem to be posting cars that maybe they've had just sitting in the garage that they haven't been working on, and they've been posting them for pretty reasonable prices. And I really think it's because people are, well, maybe it's twofold. This kind of coronavirus scare is making people worry about their actual, liquid assets, actually having cash money on hand rather than having it wrapped up in an antique car. But it might be twofold just because, as we've talked about on other shows, we're probably coming into a time where antique cars are going to start coming down in value because there's not necessarily a large population of the next generation that's going to want to buy those. So I think this might be playing into that, and people are saying, you know what, I'm not going to hold on to this thing anymore. I'm going to dump it. I'm going to get what I can out of it, and I'm going to move on. I mean, that is one thing I have seen. There's a couple cars I've actually been keeping an eye on, as John said, that if they come down even more than what they're originally posted for, I think it would be kind of silly to not try to grab them up.
And do you think that's probably more related to just the sheer panic I know you said, taking these, I can't think of the word I want to use, these assets and, like you said, liquefying them. Or do you think it was one of those things? I made a decision about 4 weeks ago to officially sell my 62 Chrysler. I think I joked with Will about it a little bit last week. But do you think some people were making that decision over the winter and we're into the spring and it's time to maybe let's see if we can move some of this stuff because, I believe what you showed me was a running driving car. Do you think it's some of that spring liquidation and the market was correcting itself there, or is it a sheer panic, or is it a combination of both? I just mean, like Sean said, it's really hard to discuss really what's happening, but we're just making some observations of what
it has to be a combo there, doesn't it? It has to be a combo.
I think it is. Like I say, I think it's and maybe it's more than twofold. Maybe it's multifaceted, but it's all of this that's coming together in the antique car world. And I'm talking, as John said, pre-World War II era cars. I don't know that there's going to be a strong market for them in this next decade or so. And like I say, I think people, probably the brass era stuff is always going to be pretty strong. And there are certain cars that are always going to be fairly. I don't think a Duesenberg is ever going to come down to a price that I can afford. But I think some of the other stuff, maybe like my Peerless, some of the Packards, some of those cars, they're going to start coming down. And I think this might just be the beginning of it. And a scare like this with the stock market probably is what's pushing that forward a little.
So we might see, I guess, using complete puns or whatever we want to call them, seeing the coronavirus infecting what you're saying is the pre-war market and not necessarily killing it, but maybe accelerating its decline. Because I can kind of agree with you that over the next 10 years, I think that we're going to see a really big softening of that market. I see some coming back. T's and A's are going to be novelties. You'll have them for a couple of grand and people will knock around in them just to be old. And like you said, Duesenbergs and Auburns and Pierce Arrows and stuff like that are always going to be desirable. I think I might disagree with you and think that a lot of the brass era stuff is going to become museum exhibits and demos and exercises. I think we'll see fewer and fewer of those at events other than, special invitation display just so people know what the cars are, and more of those will come out of private collector hands and go into institutions and such.
Or into my hands.
Well, I'm thinking mainly because the institutions are going to be able to offer a more lucrative tax incentive or write-off, especially to somebody doing estate planning, than selling it off to someone else and having another $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in the estate that's going to be taxed. There's a lot of things to take into consideration there. So I guess
that just depends on the overall value of whatever vehicle we're talking about, though. I mean, it's if I'm going to put $500,000 in my pocket and I'm taking a $50,000 tax hit on it, or even $100,000 tax hit on it, I'll still take that $400,000. Is the tax hit is the tax incentive ever enough to really truly offset something like that? I've never lived in that arena that you guys have lived in, so I really don't know. But
I mean, it really depends on the financial situation of the donor. It all plays into that. I mean, it.
Yeah, what Derek's saying is
it's all based on.
True.
So it's basically how quickly do you need to get rid of the car?
Not necessarily how quickly you need to get rid of the car, how well you've planned your estate. If you need to protect some assets, if you want to necessarily make the estate a little bit more liquid. I mean, there's a lot of things, and a lot of accounting loopholes and such. We see people donate $1 million cars, and yeah, that's couple $100,000 a deduction or something, but we don't know what they're offsetting, what's happening. That's why I'm not a tax advisor, tax planner. Right. You just see it. But I think, at times it is lucrative to donate certain things. And I'm not speaking just cars, but, any sort of artifact or any sort of collection, just because of how it impacts the real world tax. And it also depends on what tax credits the estate's carrying or the individual's carrying. And it gets really, really complex really, really fast. But to some people, it's preserving, and they like the idea of their car being on display with their name for
right. Sometimes it's easier to take it to the museum than to take your Bearcat to CarMax.
Yeah,
probably not the best.
Well, and it does. Stuff. I mean, one of the things we always talk. We're getting off topic, but that's what we're good at doing here. One of the things I always like to talk to the donors about is, if you just sell the car to the next collector or something like that, okay, your name is on the list of people that have owned it, but if they donate that car to a museum, to an institution that's going to use it in exhibits and display it, then they've created a legacy as well. Rather than just selling the car and their name is just one of the many people that have owned it, now if you donate it, you've created that legacy of your grandkids coming to the museum, your great-grandkids coming in and seeing the car that their grandpa, great-grandpa, and grandma, whatever, donated to the museum.
You were the last person to own it in the wild.
Yeah, but it also to preserve history, to tell a story. So there's a little different connection. So I digress.
That makes sense. I mean, it's looking at those perspectives are things that me coming from outside of the museum realm, I've never even thought about it. I've never been in a position where I've really had a car that a museum would even want. So I don't think any museum really wants my 1981 E21 BMW. I don't think they really care about that. So it's
to the junkyard. Nobody wants that.
Hey. It's a race car.
There could be a market. There could be a museum. Some museums will take whatever they can.
The Museum of Lemons.
Yeah. They might want to hold on, you get into a whole kind of, how long do they have to hold it before they can do something with it. But if you donated that car to a museum and you got your X dollar tax write-off, even if it's $1,000 or $2,000,
$4.
And, they held on to it for the designated period of time and say 5 years down the road, of course, it may or may not fit their collection. But if they have the room to store it, they'll hold it, and then they'll turn and flip it, and maybe they'll get, you said $4. Okay, it's $4 more the museum has than what they had before. And it's ensuring the longevity or making sure that museum continues to exist. You could take, say, the Mustang Museum locally. Some guy donates a Camaro to it. They don't want a Camaro, but if they get the donation, hold on to it a couple of years, and, some guy, I want to say donates it out of spite. They hold on to it for a couple of years. They sell it, get $4,000 or $5,000 for it. They've got $4,000 or $5,000 for operating costs or to continue, the longevity of the museum. So there's a lot of different aspects from both sides of the fence. But swinging back to the topic, what's our feeling? Do we need to rush out and buy a new car? I mean, I've already seen Hyundai's jumped on the bandwagon of, if you're affected by COVID-19, if you purchase a car now, they'll waive your payments for 6 months. So they're telling you, come in, buy a car, and if you get laid off because of this, we'll waive your payments for 6 months. And if you don't get laid off because of this, we'll waive your payments for 4 months or up to 6 months. I'm not going to say that just because it's up to 6 months. Do you think that's a wise thing to do from you can go from a manufacturer or from a consumer standpoint. Do I rush out? I mean, I've already talked to the finance company on my car and told them how I'm being affected by this, and honestly, I'm being affected by this in certain ways. And they're going to work with me. So is it are they going after the people that are afraid to call their finance company and say, hey, I'm affected by this and moving in and trying to take advantage of that situation? Or, I guess what I'm saying here is we're trying to educate any of the listeners that maybe you don't have to rush out and buy a new car. But do you think it's a decent plan, or do you think it's a good idea, or is it?
But remember our disclaimer. Don't take our advice.
Yes, don't take our advice, but we're making you, aware of certain things.
It's somewhat educated advice, even if we do throw out don't necessarily hinge everything on what we're saying. I mean, all of us have been involved in some way, shape, or form in the automotive industry for decades. And I was actually involved on the sales side of the automotive industry for quite a long time. And I would have to say that it's manufacturers just trying to find some way to keep inventory moving, because we all know that OEs right now are idling factories. I mean, they have stockpiles of vehicles that are being floor planned on lots, and they need to move them in order to, like, if they don't move, they can't fire the factories back up even longer. I see why people, like, we've already talked about people wanting liquid assets right now. So I doubt I'm not going to say I doubt anyone, because there are plenty of people that are in a situation where they could go out and they could drop $50,000 on a car and they're still not worried about anything. I'm not one of them. But I am a person who has seen what's happening in the new car market right now and thought it might be a good time to go and get the replacement vehicle for one of our personal daily drivers that I've been thinking about getting for the last 6 or 7 months. Well, I don't know whether it's the right time to do it or not. I do know that if you go out right now and you responsibly walk into a new car sales office or showroom, and you stay 50 feet away from everyone in there, and you say, I'm here to buy a car, there's going to be red carpet flying at you from every single direction you could possibly imagine. No one's buying a car right now. And if you have the ability to buy a car right now and you want or need a car right now, go buy a car.
Good idea.
Go buy a car. I don't think we've seen, if you're in a buying position, we haven't seen the buyer have this much buying power potential in decades. You'd be crazy not to if you had the ability to do it.
I'm going to say if we go back to 2008, it wasn't
about the same.
It wasn't.
No, actually, probably not as bad.
No, it wasn't as bad, because what was happening in 2008 is people were dumping their SUVs and their full-size trucks and buying all the Priuses and Yaris's and Focus and whatever they could. And I walked into a Dodge dealer that actually ended up going away at that time eventually. But I walked into a Dodge dealer and say, hey, I want to buy a full-size pickup. And, once they understood I was serious that I want to buy a full-size pickup in the world of $4 a gallon gas and things like that, they were all over me, and I got a heck of a deal on that truck. But my motivating factor is I was driving a four-wheel drive 2005 Dodge Dakota at the time. And I was already getting 14 or 15 miles a gallon out of it, but it was a too small of a truck for me, and I've never really cared for four-wheel drive. So I traded my Dakota, and I got into a full-size Dodge Ram that had a better turning radius, had a bigger bed, had a bigger cab, had more towing power and capabilities. Ironically, it was one of the last 6-speed manual half-ton trucks ever marketed, which also helped in my negotiation, and ended up with a truck that got 18 miles a gallon. So I still had horrible gas mileage from the whole thing, but I actually improved my whole situation just by taking advantage of it. And I think that's what Sean's saying is if you're in a position and it's responsible. I mean, if you had $50,000 to put into go in and pay cash for a car, almost everybody's offering 0% now. You can go ahead and you can put that 50,000. I wouldn't say in the stock market today, maybe.
Well, actually, buy low, man.
But even just a savings account and earned, 1/10 or 0.2% interest on it while you're, making payments. Put it in the savings account, earn the interest, and just make the payments out of that savings account. And when it's all said and done, you're, $10 farther ahead than you were before.
If I had 50 grand to buy a car right now, like just a car right now, like a toy car right now, I'd be walking into an Alpha dealer and pointing at a 4C going, I will give you $42,000 for that $58,000, or I give you $38,000 for that $58,000 4C.
It's always with the 4C with you, man.
God, I love the 4C, man.
I actually have a friend who has a couple of 4Cs, and
do you want to give me one?
Rubbing it in.
That's how he actually purchased one. I think it was an $87,000 or $88,000 sticker price, and walked in and said, "I'm going to give you X number of dollars," and put it this way, it was somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000.
That's insane, dude. Yeah, you can buy them for nothing.
They had it pushed to the back of their lot. It was outside. It was dirty and dusty. Nobody had ever paid attention to it customer wise. It was off their floor plan, and they were just paying interest on it. So they just shoved it to the back corner. And I don't know why he stopped by said dealership, but he was in a position that he could do that.
Huh. So that's how people buy Alphas. They're not really looking to buy one. They just happen to stop by, and
he had
magically appears in their garage.
He had already had a 4C, and I think it was a 4C convertible, and I can't remember if this one was a convertible.
Oh, so he definitely needs two. Can you give me one?
I can't remember. He might actually have three, if not four.
Just let me drive one. Let me drive one for a little bit. No, seriously, I mean, I'll go ahead and say it, and Derek's going to hate me. John's going to totally understand.
Wait, gonna hate you?
Well, Derek's going to probably I'm going to affirm Derek's opinion of me. How's that? Is that better? Okay, I'm thinking about getting rid of the Alpha and getting a Pacifica. Yeah. But it's because of the business that I have, and I need that for the business, and it just makes a lot of sense. We have 2 Greyhounds, and we don't have a vehicle that we can throw them, both in comfortably. My wife has a little crossover that we can get them in, but the stow and go seating and the Pacifica actually rides nice, and as a minivan goes, it's awesome. So and Chrysler has mega deals right now, and I don't know whether it's the responsible thing to do, the right thing to do. It's the dumbest thing in the world to do, but we are eventually, whether it's right or wrong, we're going to start rolling out of where we're at right now. And when we do, the buying power that we have right now from the buyer's perspective is going to start eroding somewhat. But then there's the other side of me. It's like, go buy a Hellcat. Gas is 99 cents a gallon. So just none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense right now.
Well, I think
I like the Hellcat option.
Since we're giving you buying advice, kind of on the podcast, I think I told you when you bought the Alpha, why didn't you buy a Pacifica at the time? Because
you probably did. I mean, I should have bought a Cayman, because that's the car that I basically based everything that I've driven off of, and wanted it to be a Cayman ever since I was instructing for Porsche. I've just fallen in love with those cars. I've never owned one personally, so that's stupid. But the Alpha wasn't a car that I needed. I was perfectly happy with the car that I had at the time. It just kind of was like, oh, that's a decent deal. Okay, I'll take that.
Well, you kind of fell into the same situation I did, what have it been, 18 years ago with a certain manufacturer where they made you mad and you just went and did something in spite.
Oh, yeah,
It's the same manufacturer.
Yeah.
Which, ironically, when I got mad at another manufacturer, I went back to and bought something from said manufacturer.
The sad thing is I still want a Mini. I love them. I just don't want to buy one from that particular dealership.
I saw a picture of Simon online the other day. I don't know if you're still friends with that said gentleman, but
What does he say?
He likes truck drawings.
It was kind of in the background of a photo that he had posted from his past and as a memory, but just to bring up a memory for you.
It was not my picture, but my old car.
Yep. And I don't know.
No way.
I don't know if you were the owner of it or who you sold it to, but yeah, it was Simon.
Oh my God. That car, that was one of the best cars I've ever. It's in the top 5 of the best cars I've ever owned.
Yeah, and for all the listeners, very rarely do I call cars by their names as people do. I don't believe in that theory. I think it's dumb.
That car he was Simon, man. He was. He fit. Little Mini Cooper, Union flag on the roof. It was awesome.
You guys lost me like 5 minutes ago.
Did I?
Yeah.
I mean, you're welcome to jump in anytime.
Well, speaking of memories on Facebook, Derek, I got one, and it would be, I think, in 3 weeks, you and I met 11 years ago.
My God, you're getting old, John.
Yeah, I am.
Whereas Derek's not aging at all.
I got rid of all my gray hair.
So did I. It squeaks now.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, see, now you guys got me looking at Subarus because thinking about all the deals that are out there right now, probably need to get the new Subaru for my wife. So now I'm distracted looking at Subarus.
And you know, the farthest thing from my mind right now, I'm not even looking at cars.
The only reason I'm looking for one is because
on...
I do need something that I can pick up and haul stuff around in. And I don't want a truck. I really just don't want a truck.
Trucks work for that. Trucks
I don't want a
well. GMCs are good. Chevys are good.
Don't want a truck.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want a truck.
VW Bugs are good. Jettas are good.
I would be,
after you convert them into a truck, Dodge Challenger.
If the ID was already out, if the VW ID was already out and it was a hybrid instead of all electric, I'd be
Mercedes.
not gonna. Now I would like an R.
Good Mercedes.
I'd love an R, but they hold their value way too well, man. I'm not paying what people want for a 2007. Was it R55 or there's an R50? There's the 6-cylinder. There's a 55 and a 63 AMG. I think maybe possibly. I know there's a 500 horsepower Mercedes minivan, but those things are like 60 G's, man. They hold their value better than any other Mercedes ever. 500
horsepower Mercedes minivan.
Yeah.
Speaking of looking at Bring a Trailer, they had a 2007 Mercedes-Benz R63 AMG Supercharge.
That's the one.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Bid, not sold. Bid to $70,000 on 325.
Jeebus.
Or today, actually.
Yeah. See that? I mean, that was supercharged. That was heavily modified. That's the one with the monoblocks on it. I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
It's pretty. It's awesome, but it ain't $70,000 worth of vehicle in my mind, anyway. Like I want a minivan because I want a utilitarian vehicle, and the Pacifica actually is still. It rides nice. It has the creature comforts. It's got Uconnect. It has the 8.4-inch touchscreen. It's still a nice place to sit and daily drive.
No, that's right.
I've even thought about a Grand Caravan, but.
Grand Caravans are a heck of a deal, but I just keep sitting here, and I've got an idea. I've joked about maybe wanting a Miata, but I keep this Smith DIY car to truck conversion kits. They did the Jetta, the VW, the Charger. You ought to get one of those and do something with it.
The Charger truck would be cool.
I think
I can do the Charger truck.
I think the bed would be long enough and such with that.
Well, you could. I mean, I could put a 6 or 8 foot trailer behind that and tow it fine.
And
literally, our simulators don't weigh anything. They're just they take up some space. That's why. Yeah, you could tow something with one of those. That would be very cool. But I don't know whether See, I basically need to get out of a car and get right into another one. I don't need a project at all.
Well,
and
there might be some of these coming up for sale. Of course, this company, Smith Designs, and I hope to have him on the show. I'm reaching out to a lot of people and scheduling a lot of interviews during the downtime because a lot of people have some downtime right now. But he's kind of publicly went on record that he can't keep up with production for the number of orders he's getting right now with the virus. So here's a guy selling a $3,000 kit that goes on a Beetle, a Jetta, a Golf, a WRX or Impreza, a Charger, or an Audi A4 or S4, and makes them into a pickup truck. So $3,000 plus you got to buy the car, and he can't keep up with it. And he just introduced a new one for the Jeep Grand Cherokee that's an extremely easy kit.
That's the one I was thinking of. And that he just put out. Yeah, it's cool looking too.
And it's $2,490. I kind of watched him develop this thing, and I don't know how close he is to ready, but
actually, here, let me see if I can do this.
We're all waiting.
If the video is actually recording, you can see it scrolling through the Smith Performance stuff on my panel right now. And they're cool, man. There's a Subaru for you, Derek.
Yeah.
I like the little Turbo S Beetle's awesome. That Charger is the deal. That Charger is amazing. I'd be all in if I had a project budget, but I don't have a project budget.
Wow.
Do what?
That is a lot of work to do that conversion.
It's really not as much as you think, man. He does provide a really nice little kit.
The Jeep's supposed to be extremely easy because I don't even think you have to do any fender work with the Jeep.
I don't think you have to do fender work with these, do you? You just hack them.
Well, there's
just hack them and the fenders stay intact. Are you talking about inner fender well?
I'm talking. It has something to do. I read something that it's a little bit easier than the rest because of the way the Jeep's designed. But of course, you've got to cover up where the rear door was. So
here, I'm just going to taunt Derek. I'm going to taunt him.
Yeah, I really don't like that.
Oh, come on! It's a modern brat.
Yeah,
that's John. That's John. That's not me.
I'd be all about that. I think that's cool. I think it's really cool.
Well, we'll talk after show on this, and I'll tell you my crazy idea. But so we have chatted about 40 minutes, kind of on this topic. Okay, out of the 40 minutes,
and really gotten off topic.
Yeah, we probably chatted 15 minutes on this topic, and
actually, my part of it was on topic, and then you guys went off. So,
well, you started going off topic too, but who cares?
Let's not bicker over who killed who.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm watching the markets, and I'm not seeing any spectacular deals out there. People aren't letting go out of stuff, especially in the higher 5 figures and up. They're not dumping yet.
Because they don't need to.
But what also gets me is, like Derek was saying, he's been watching some of the pre-war stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm on, a lot of the Radwood, the Maltese page, a lot of these little what do you want to call it? Unique cars or something like that, and people are always posting cars they just picked up, and it seems more and more people are purchasing even in this $3,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 range, to get their Radwood car or such. And maybe that's somebody who really can't afford that extra car, selling it to get cash to somebody who has, extra money or is in denial over, what's going on or doesn't understand. I don't know if any of us understands, but so I think our listeners have now just spent 40 minutes listening to us, and we're not giving you really any advice, just trying to give you some points to think about.
We gave them a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we gave them a disclaimer at the beginning that we weren't going to give advice.
and then I went on a little diatribe about how consumers actually have some buying power right now if they care to exercise it and if they have the ability to exercise it. And obviously I'm not advocating someone go out and spend their last dime to buy a car that they may not need and not, have toilet paper or hand sanitizer, because God knows we all need mass quantities of that right now. He said, tongue in cheek.
Don't go out with your $1,200 check you'll be receiving in 3 weeks and use it as a down payment.
And buy the Miata like John's going to. I mean, I'm sorry, I said that.
Wrong.
That $1,200 is dedicated to a pallet of toilet paper. Okay.
You already have a line. You got a line on that. You going black market toilet paper?
Yeah.
It's going to be an unmarked box truck pull up in front of Derek's house. And it's just going to be pallets of toilet paper and hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to bathe in hand sanitizer. We'll see you
every night.
Opening up Budweiser cans that are now sanitizer.
Really want to make a crack joke here, but we're talking about that production and stuff. We may as well touch.
Come into this?
I don't know where you use your toilet paper.
This is a serious time. Okay, you shouldn't be talking about crack. I know you grew up around Chicago, but okay.
Crack.
We've brought up the hand sanitizer twice in this episode, and I made a response to a friend on Facebook when he first posted the ideas behind this, and where this is kind of car related. And GM has announced that they're going to convert a production facility to the manufacture of ventilators.
Ford's doing that as well, and I think Ferrari is doing that.
But I almost say Ferrari, it makes sense. But as I pointed out to the friend, I'm not quite sure you can take an F-150 assembly line and easily convert that over to ventilators to do it for a year and then go back to F-150.
No, they're just talking about the the cooled seat components, converting that portion of an assembly line into positive pressure ventilators.
Yeah, that's where I went, is that you could probably take your subcontractor who makes air conditioning.
That's exactly what they're talking. That's exactly what they're talking about doing, but they're talking about doing it with just the air portion of a cooled seat.
Yeah,
the portion that pushes the air up into the seat. Because that with a controller could be easily adapted to a hose and a mask for use, and as long as you've got that medical equipment attached to it, that can be adapted.
And it's good to see the manufacturers stepping up to do that. I'm sure there's some, because I'm always somebody who thinks that way. I'm sure there's some financial incentive about that. They're keeping people with jobs. Mm-hmm. They're keeping a plant active. They're going to make, even at $6 a ventilator, they're going to make $6 a ventilator. And it's going to really help in the long-term supply, because we're going to need, you're going to need these things no matter what range we get to or the number of people that get infected. And I'm not going to get into the stats and the charts and the numbers and my personal opinions on how or what the future holds.
I don't want to get into any opinions, but I will say that I saw that Waffle House is closing 365 of their restaurants. That's terrifying.
Well, I got thinking.
Waffle House closes nothing.
Yeah, but I got
ever.
I got thinking, if you're doing carry out, they can serve a lot more people quicker, and I live a quarter mile from a Waffle House one way and 4 miles from a Waffle House the other way, and I think if you go 4 miles the other way, there's a Waffle House. So since it's all carry out, do you really need 3 Waffle Houses in a 20 square mile
Waffle House area? Like just 3 weeks ago, they offered to sublet our kitchen. They literally, they're everywhere. I can't remember how many Waffle Houses there are, but there are thousands.
Actually, where you're at, there used to be 2 Waffle Houses probably within a block of each other.
Yeah, I love the ones that are like, if you're If you've ever driven across the country, you've seen this, and it's always blown my mind. But there's a Waffle House on each side of the interstate, so you don't have to get off the interstate and go across the overpass to get to the Waffle House. You literally get off the interstate in whatever direction you're going. You get off, you go to that Waffle House, and then you can just get right back on the interstate and keep on going. And they're all over the country like that. It's amazing.
Well,
Do what?
You're just making it convenient to the traveler because they're going to get off and making a right turn's easy. And if they're going right, they have that option. If they decide to go left, to maybe they're like the Shell station, and the Shell station's to the left, the Waffle House. And if you notice, a lot of those, or a lot of times that occurs, the Waffle House is the first business you come to when you get off the.
Oh yeah.
You have no option of going. Choose any other fast food restaurant or place to eat. It's Waffle House, then those. So they.
I'm surprised they don't build them right in the middle of the off ramp.
You know what I would like?
Put them right there.
We remember. It had to be 25 years ago. It was the world of KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut in the same building, or KFC and Taco Bell in the same building. Waffle House and Dairy Queen in the same building. Because how many times are you going on a road trip and you just want ice cream or something from Dairy Queen? And it would be so neat and nice to pop off the interstate, go to the little Waffle House drive-through, and it would give them
you could get your Blizzard smothered, capped, peppered, and cubed.
Yep.
Is that the Blizzard you want? You want a Blizzard with cheese, mushrooms, jalapenos, and ham.
Little hash brown hairs hanging out.
Yeah, mix that up and just send it. That's what I'm talking about.
I think Derek's left.
No, I'm still here. I'm just I'm trying to figure out when we turned into a food podcast. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it, although I can't talk about Waffle House because I've never eaten at a Waffle House. So.
Derek just bought a Subaru. He's literally just buying a Subaru. Right
he's ordering a Smith kit.
That'd
Derek,
be cool.
See, that's why you need to listen to the episodes you're not on. We talked about the need to discuss food on all podcasts because all podcasts somewhere discuss food.
Well, if we're going to do that, then let's talk about like the best restaurants to eat on a road trip, and let's tie it to the automobile.
Waffle House.
I think that's on the topic list.
Well, there we go.
Well, maybe that will be next Wednesday's topic, because I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up before we waste any more of the listeners' time.
I throw one more bit of advice out before we wrap it up?
We were doing really good with our listeners, and we're going to plummet this week.
Are we?
Well, fortunately, actually, podcast listening's down right now. I think it's because people aren't driving to work and such. But you go ahead. What's your bit of knowledge, Sean?
I'm not condoning this behavior. I'm just saying, if you ever had the dream of setting the coast-to-coast record for getting from New York to LA, a cannonball record, now might be the time.
It's a tough record right now to beat. I thought I just read something or saw something about somebody doing something on a C2C race or run for a record.
Now might be the time.
And that's a good time to remind everybody we're not giving advice on this. We're just throwing out some theories.
Exactly.
We're not saying rush out and go buy a new Hyundai or a Pacifica or an Alfa Romeo 4C.
You can buy a Pacifica for me. I'll take it.
But,
However, now that everyone knows how to wash your hands when you're driving, there's a little lever on the left of the steering column. If you push that down, your left turn signal comes on. If you push up, your right turn signal comes on.
When do I use
just something
that?
to work.
I've seen those memes, and I disagree. I think if we're going to take this time to educate people on a driving technique, It's stay out of the left lane. I don't care if you use a turn signal because I'm in the left lane. I know how to use mine to get there. I know how to use mine to get out. And if you're not in the left lane, I don't care what you're doing in the lane next to me. So I'm going to say, now that everybody pretty much understands washing their hands, let's learn left lane etiquette.
I like that one too.
Yeah, Germany, you're excluded from this. You got that.
Yeah, exactly.
Everywhere else on the planet, listen up.
So with that, again, email, Facebook, Instagram, find us. Excuse me, a lot of O's there. Went on to the
another one.
I forgot where the heck did I go? I went to the web page and updated, and there is a page of things we use in the automotive world that we like. You know, some battery type maintainers, a couple little tools, a lot of books. If you go there, there's some, you know, the Driven that we interviewed the author about back in January. We have a link to that book. I finally finished reading it. It is an excellent book, really told a neat story. I have a whole Tom Cotter library. We're hoping to have him on the show and maybe talk to him about some certain things that he has a passion about, and not just talk to him about the In the Barn books like everybody seems to want to interview him about. Get a little bit out of him. And we've got a few other things lined up, but if you watch those affiliate links, and they are affiliate links, we'll make a couple of pennies for each one of those. Or if you go through, or if you're just going to Amazon, go through our page, click one of those, and then buy whatever you are on Amazon, and we'll still get a little bit of money. Just trying to figure out a couple of ways to keep this coming at you, and keep the podcast interesting. But like I said, just Google No Driving Gloves and you'll find us. For that, I'm out of here tonight, guys.
Bye-bye.
Oh, shoot. We're out of time. We forgot to talk about the Zamboni market, guys.
It's going up. It's going way up. Right now it's frozen.
I find it's a very slick market, and it's hard to keep the balance and get a gauge on it. But
we need to stop.